You never quite know when things are going to go wrong out on the water, kind of like this situation here right off the coast of Florida this week, where one of these vessels was taking on water and sinking, and fortunately a Good Samaritan vessel jumped in to lend a hand. On top of that, the Coast Guard went out, dropped the dewatering pump with a perfect landing right across the bow of the vessel, people helping people, just the thing we like to see on this channel. Welcome back, guys, to this week's episode of Boating News of the Week. Our first story to make the boating news this week is going to take us up to Ohio, where this was the scene on the Maumee River just this past week, when a cargo ship that was attached to a tug vessel was coming into port when all of a sudden a massive storm struck, and the next thing the vessel knew, it was caught in the middle of what the National Weather Service is calling it an F2 tornado. The images that can be seen here were caught from the bridge of the tug vessel as the tornado approaches the cargo ship, and the ship winds up getting pelted with hail, massive weather, and waves. At the time of the incident, the pusher tug Victory was attached to the cargo barge Maumee, giving them a total combined length of over 800 foot, really leaving both these vessels at the mercy of the wind and waves. After the storm passed, the crew was able to evaluate the situation, and no damages or injuries were reported, but they did wind up looking at the onboard readings onboard the tug vessel, and the onboard wind gauge actually maxed out at 148 miles per hour during the storm. The video itself appears to be taken near the mouth of the Maumee River, close to where it reaches Lake Erie. The tug and barge appear to be just off the Maumee Boring Basin, and the video shows the clouds and everything building up as the storm approaches, and then what it looks like in the aftermath at the end. Fortunately for the crews, the whole event only lasted about 4 minutes before everything clears and breaks back up. Our next story to make the boating news this week is going to take us over to Florida, where this was the scene this week in Panama City, when Good Samaritans had to jump into action to try and rescue 3 people who found themselves trapped in a houseboat that wound up flipping over and capsizing during a massive storm that came upon them in Panama City. These images show Boyd Jordan jumping into the water and abandoning his vessel in an attempt to try and smash out a window in the houseboat so the 3 people stuck inside can swim out. The whole incident started as people were trying to move the houseboat, which doubles as a convenience store out on the water in the local area. But during the move, things changed quickly and a massive storm rolled in, creating treacherous conditions out on the water, and before they knew it, the houseboat had begun to take on water and started to capsize. This crew was very fortunate that Boyd was there. He was in the water quickly and he was able to successfully get one of the windows smashed out so the 3 people on board could swim out of the houseboat. They wound up swimming to a local sandbar nearby where they waited for the storm to pass. Travis Brady happened to be fishing in the area and also jumped into action as a Good Samaritan to try and rescue the people out of the water. Fortunately, he was able to pull Boyd successfully from the water. The other 3 who were rescued from the houseboat on the sandbar were actually able to walk to shore. Our next story to make the boating news this week is going to take us up to the coast of New Jersey, where this was the scene just a few weeks back when 4 boaters had to be rescued after their boat capsized just off the Belmar beaches. Fortunately for this crew, Captain Bobby Quinn was leading a charter vessel out during the same time that the vessel capsized, making this crew exceptionally lucky because of the 4 people who were on board this vessel. Apparently, according to reports, only one of them knew how to swim, and as can be seen in the images, it appears none of them had life jackets on, making this crew exceptionally lucky. If Captain Quinn hadn't been in the area, we may be telling a completely different story today, but fortunately, all 4 men were able to successfully be pulled from the water without injury. In fact, Captain Quinn actually wound up taking them fishing later in the day. Now, our next story to make the boating news is actually one that hits quite close to home for me, and the reason I say that is because it's something I've actually been asked to do several times. For those of you who've been around the channel long enough, you guys know we do several Bahamas trips by boat every single year. In fact, we just got back on a Concept 44 from the Bahamas, video coming soon. But every time we do one of these trips, I typically have to tow a boat to Fort Lauderdale, and somebody's almost always flying into the Fort Lauderdale airport. And every single time without fail, I get asked, "Hey BG, do you mind picking me up at the airport?" And of course I always have to say no because I have a boat in tow. Well, somebody else took a different approach to that, as seen in the picture here, where my man decided he was going to try and take his boat in tow through the pickup terminal down at the Fort Lauderdale airport and found out the hard way that's not something that can be done. Now, I did look for video footage of this. I'm quite shocked I could not find any. Somebody had to see this one coming, but in doing so, I did find out traffic was blocked down at the Fort Lauderdale airport for several hours, but I wound up stumbling across another airport that continuously has some sort of boat issues, and that's the Boston airport, but they have boat issues of a different kind. Instead of blocking traffic, it blocks the runway. This is runway 4R at Logan International Airport, and as can be seen in these images here, it is right off the port of Boston, meaning that approaching pilots sometimes have to navigate their planes around massive vessels to try and approach the runway, showing another way that boats wreak havoc at airports and that it doesn't only happen at Fort Lauderdale. Thanks for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed this week's episode of Boating News of the Week. If you ever see anything crazy happening out in your waterways, be sure to hit us up on Facebook or Instagram and let me know, and you might see your stories over here. Just like Boyd Jordan, Bobby Quinn, Nicole Willard, Travis Brady, and Andrew Willard did this week. And if you guys haven't already, go ahead and drop an anchor on the subscribe button here. If not, we're coming to steal your drain plug.